Well, I need to be thinking about frost tonight. Apparently it's coming in, and I'm therefore going to cover the seedlings over with fleece. But first of all, I need to start to do some pricking out. So I'm going to get some lettuce out of the seed trays and move them on into some slightly larger cells. So we're going to give everything a bit of a water as well today. It's been a couple of days since I've watered. The temperatures have not been particularly high, but it's still important that we make sure none of this dries out, and it's certainly looking like it could easily dry out now. So we've got two chunks of seedlings that will need that attention, and they're looking quite well. So nothing new come up, a few more of the best of all Swedes, and over here, yeah, we've got a few more calendula, and I think probably some more celeriac coming to germination there. We've got our first broad bean in the second sowing, and some leeks coming through, so we're making some good progress, and we just need to prick some of the earlier seeds on now. So first I'm going to prick on these salad lettuce, and this is Morton's Secret Mix from Real Seeds. I planted this on the 1st of February and it's now the 19th of March, and it's interesting to see what sort of mix this actually turned out to be. Looking at it at the moment, it's probably not more than a couple of different varieties that I can identify at this stage. So anyway, I'm going to prick these out into a strip of cells and just get good distance between them so I can get development, and then plant them separately into beds, whether it be inside or out. And to do that, I'm going to simply make a hole in one of the cells using this tool, which is a stainless steel dibber, which I've had for a very long time. I'm going to ease out a block, trying not to damage the roots too much, and I'm probably going to get a chunk each time like that, and then from that tease out the plants, just breaking up the soil gently. They tend to just fall apart then, as long as it's reasonably damp. And I've got there 3 separate plants, and then just using the cell, I'm going to push down into the cell and maybe top with a bit of compost if I need it, and give it a bit of a firm, and that's it done. I'm going to work my way through all of these seedlings and end up hopefully with a full tray. Well, as if by some sort of magic, there is exactly the right number of lettuce seedlings for 2 trays, and I'm sure many people, especially for a secret mix, would like the randomness of it, but my rather orderly brain wants to try and identify the species and put them in rows, and I've done that to some extent. There seems to be an all green variety in there, a fairly dominantly and much smaller red variety, and there seems to be a smaller, slightly different shaped leaf in the green, and then a real speckledy leaf which appears now and then, and some more dominantly red. So yeah, there's a good mix in here, and probably a lot of these just naturally green ones, they'll appear differently as they get going. So that is the Morton Secret Mix. I will just drop in a little bit of soil here and there where I think I've got a few dips, just to top it up. It'll save it drying out. If it was a bit shallow, then they do naturally dry out a bit easier in these sort of cells, and then I'll give them a water and cover them back up, and onward they go. And the next step for these will be planting out or planting inside the polytunnel into their final positions. So the next batch of lettuce is the red salad bowl, again sown on the 1st of February, and my usual tactic of filling cells is just putting them in this tray, this large tray, and just putting a load of compost on top to fill the cells, which is a really speedy method of filling them up. And then when I'm happy I've topped them up, I just push down every single one so that we get as little air pockets in these as possible, and then another dusting over the top to get the cells ready to plant into. And I'll do exactly the same as I've done with the Morton's Secret Mix, and put these red salad bowls into this tray. And based on that little tray full, which was only a small amount of seed, it'll probably fill another 2 of these. And it just goes to show you don't need many seeds to get a whole load of lettuce ready, and succession sowing is clearly the key to make sure that you get all your crop across a period of time rather than all at once. So that surprised me, just enough for 1 tray and half a dozen left over, and I just don't want to fill this tray with a mixed group of seedlings, so I've popped those into a separate pot. They always serve a good purpose when you've got spares like this. If any of these are broken in the process of planting and pricking on, then you can always pick one of those out and replace it to get a full tray. And so I'm going to water this fella, and that's the seedlings of the lettuce done and complete for the next step. Any other seedlings that are ready now for potting on, or are not already in individual cells and therefore don't need potting on, are these marigolds. Again, these were sown on the 1st of February, and here we are in the latter part of March, and they're good and ready for pricking out and putting into the next stage. So once again, I'll use these cells and move them on into their individual locations. Whilst I was pricking those out and potting them on, that some of those marigolds had had their heads eaten off, and I don't know what it was. I don't think it's slugs and snails because I haven't seen any, but something was having a go at them, so it was very timely that I moved those on into different soil and a different location. So I'm going to do a little bit of sowing. This is parsnip, tender and true, 2 different packets of. They get a special treatment, and I'm going to show you those in another video. And so I've got some choices here, some green heading Calibres or broccoli, some quick heading Calibres or broccoli, the purple version of the turnip, and Crimson Crush tomato seeds, which I'm definitely going to grow in the propagator because I'm having little or no success with the moneymaker that I sowed in the polytunnel. I've got an early fortune cucumber. Again, I think I'm probably going to put that in the propagator. I've got this Romanesco broccoli, some celeriac prinz, which is the later celeriac. Again, I think that's going to go in the propagator. Basil just feels too early at the moment, and so that sort of comes down to 3-4 packets. And I think what I'm going to do is go for all the broccolis and see if I can get them started. I'll just sow a few of each to get cracking, and the turnips and the rest can wait for another week or so. So let's just see what the difference is between these broccolis. Here we have the quick heading broccoli, and you can sow this April to May, so back end of March in a polytunnel is stealing a bit of a March. And just made me think, is that where the phrase stealing a March comes from? Who knows? Anyway, this variety basically takes 60 days after planting out to get a small head, so a 60-day lead time to getting your vegetable. The green heading variety is what you consider to be the normal variety, and this takes about 120 days, so double the time of the quick heading. So this is the succession plan: 60 days, 120 days. And this fella, the Romanesco, is a long-term vegetable, planting in late April, again in the polytunnel here in late March, is stealing a bit of a March on it, and then you can actually start to harvest this broccoli in September and October stroke early November. So this is the long-term one, and what I'll probably do is, I've got that succession started. Those of course will need pricking out because they're in clusters in those seed trays, and hopefully that will give me plenty of vegetables over a long period of time. And after about a month or so, I may well sow just a few more of each, just to give me some steps in between. And why have I sown these into these trays? Well, I wouldn't do it from choice. I'd rather have each one of these seeds, or a couple of those seeds, in cells, so I end up with an easy plant to handle. But at this stage of sowing, I'm beginning to think about the space that I've got, and what with the pricking out I've just done, these sowings and more that I've got to do, I'll fill this bench. I know that the cold frame is already filled, so I need to start thinking about space. And of course, space will become available as I start to plant things into the beds, and it's just a bit too early for that. So I'm going to put a light dusting of compost over these, and they'll be ready hopefully for growing on. If you want to see a real master of succession, then I recommend Steve's Seaside Allotment, which is a YouTube channel that I've been watching for a long time, and he's an absolute master of the polytunnel planning of his seeds and generally growing. So can't recommend him enough, and if you get the opportunity, pop over to his channel. I know you'll enjoy it. There we go. I'll give those a watering, and we're good to cover up and get everything carrying on growing. Just keeping on the lettuce theme, I showed you in one of my earlier videos these lamb's lettuce that I think probably self-sown from last year. Either that or the seeds buried themselves and just didn't come up to this year. But there's a whole cluster there, and I'm going to have this bed out, so I'm going to take the opportunity to lift these and plant them into some cells and see if I can keep them going. They're very, very slow growing, but they're very tasty, and it'd be worth saving them, moving them to some other location. there's a frost coming tonight. Need to protect these seedlings, and a bit of fleece like that does the job. Well, it's a cold, bright day. Really cold, but it's dry. So we're going to do the very first jobs of the day, which include opening the shed. Get it open. There's my friendly spider. He lives there. And then off to the chickies, who are usually waiting to get out into their run. Morning, chooks. And then we'll have a quick check on the eggs. I think about this time of year is if you can get to the eggs early, then they don't step all over them. And we've got no eggs at the moment. Good morning. How are you today? You making a nest? Right, so we'll be waiting for those. And these new black rocks that I have, they make more movement of this shavings bed than any chickens I've ever had. They seem to want to cover up all the mess, so they're helping. Good morning. Oh, good morning to you too. This time of year we worm the chickens, so the feed that I'm giving them at the moment has got flubivent in it, and that is a worm treatment that you can use that enables you to use the eggs at the same time, which is marvellous. Oh, one chicken out. She'll be back in a moment. Come on, you, in you go. Come on, in you go. Come on, come on. I know. There she goes. There she goes. If anybody's wondering why we've got those strips of blue plastic on the entrance to the coop, we were suffering from the jackdaws, of which there's a very large population here, going into the coop and eating the hens' feed. And so that movement and that screen has prevented that very successfully. The end is in sight. One more strip to do and then I can level this and then we're on the way to the fruit garden. So these are the components for the door, for the run that I'm building for the hens, and it's got its self-assembly instructions. Looks pretty straightforward, so I'm just going to get on and piece the bits together and follow the instructions, and hopefully we'll be in a position to fit the door against the run and see how we progress. I'm interrupting this transmission for the first 2 eggs of the day. Yeehaw! And I'll take you around a few of the thoughts that I had when I was putting it together, and show you some of the challenges that exist with putting this type of door frame in. So these straps are self-tapped into the bars, and going into a surface like this with a self-tapping screw is really difficult. So I pre-drilled these brackets so that I had a guide hole, and that helped me drill into the circular bar, so that was really useful. You put this downward piece in last so that you can get the gap in the door perfectly positioned, so that is a real consideration. And getting this one vertical so that the door has an equal gap all the way down is a really important start point. And so we've got a bit of a gap at the top and the bolts on the outside, and I chose to open the door inwards because I'm keeping chickens in there. It helps if the chickens are pushed back rather than let out, and You therefore have to consider where you put this strap, because that stops the door going in the wrong direction, and that obviously would break the hinges. The hinges are evenly spaced at the top and the bottom, and that's important because you don't want the door to bow at all. And now it's in nice and solid, and that's the next step completed. And the big one comes next, which is putting the mesh over the top, and I think that may well be a two-person job. We'll wait and see. Quick check on those hens just to see if they've laid us an egg. Great to see the hens using the water. Seems to be successful. And let's get round here and have a quick look. Nothing at all. Hello, you still there? You come to see me, have you? That's nice. Good girl. Good girl. Oh well, just have to wait a bit longer. Might be a cool day outside, but the watering when the sun comes out is really important. How deceiving is it? Last night it was minus 0.1, and at the moment we're at 32 degrees centigrade, so it's really warming up in here. So keeping an eye on your seedlings once the sun starts getting a bit warmer is absolutely essential, and you can easily be caught out. So regular visits, keeping an eye on the temperature, all important. It occurred to me today that it's really important that we have no unnecessary impact on our health service whatsoever, and I'm sure that's true all around the world. So during this difficult time, it's really important that we take care of ourselves, and health and safety on the allotment is really important. You just need to think about whether you're going to do anything that could cause yourself an injury that could lead to needing to go and visit a health professional. So climbing ladders, using tools, everything you do, it's just about having a bit of consideration and making sure that we are not causing unnecessary burden. So take care of yourself and make sure that you keep safe and don't cause yourself any injuries. It's been an epic dig from my point of view. It's not just been a dig, it's been a dig and weed, and an area this large has taken me a fair old time, but thankfully it's a job done. I've stopped here because I don't want to stress this pear tree, and the roots will come out that far. I've just started to see a few, and I'm not going to disturb them. That's not a problem. I'm going to put a membrane over this once I've flattened it, and we shouldn't have too many weeds coming up through that area. So this whole piece of land now needs to be flattened out, I'll do that by shoveling it so that it gets fairly level and then raking it as flat as I can. And I'm going to take my time over that, because as I do that I am undoubtedly going to be raking up more pieces of weed, of the couch grass and of the mare's tail, and I'll take the time just to take that out as I go along. And then once I've got it nice and flat, it'll be membrane across the top of it, secure that membrane, and then get to the very best bit of the whole job, which is planting the fruit trees, fruit bushes in the area, and moving on to the next area. I do hope you enjoyed the video today. If you did, click the subscribe button, click the like button, and if you want updates from me each time I upload a video, click the bell and select all. I do hope you have a great day. Diolch yn fawr.